happening, friends? This is Lewis here with a review for Man of Steel. Yeah, I know you're probably saying, dude, that's an old film, but actually, I never got to review it. And now that we're kind of like in this weird quarantine stage, I'm going to put up reviews for films here on Nuke the Fridge that I never made a review for, or at least I don't recall making a review for. So I'm going to get some reviews, some old movies, some new films, just like stuff that's in the news or whatever. Movies that people are talking about again. Man of Steel with the Snyder Cut rumors and debates going around. I think it's pretty relevant right now. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on Man of Steel. You don't have to agree with them. I know you're thinking, dude, how fair could you be? You're wearing a Marvel t-shirt. Well, let me tell you right now. Number one, it was one of the few clean t-shirts I have, so that's why I'm wearing it. I actually like this t-shirt. I am a Marvel fan, but the best, I like DC more, all right? And in my opinion, the greatest superhero of all time is the Man of Steel, Superman. And here, we have Zack Snyder directing, Henry Cavill is Superman. And let me tell you, when people are cast, they always get criticized and stuff. I knew Henry Cavill would look the part, 100% look the part, and had the acting chops to be Superman. From what I understand, I don't know if this is true or not, but he was up for Superman a couple times. I think for Superman Returns, actually, but they went with Brandon Routh. Brandon Routh, also a great Superman, if you ask me. But right now, Henry Cavill, I would say, is the perfect looks-wise Superman. But here's the deal. We're going to talk a little bit about how this film, Zack Snyder, did take some... They're not really creative liberties, because we've seen Superman like this version of Superman in the comics. It was kind of like borrowed from stuff. And overall, I want to tell you, I want to just be clear, that I feel like this is actually... It's a good movie. I don't dislike the movie. I just feel like as a Superman movie, it could have been different and done more, because it's the greatest hero of all time. Superman, to me, is like the Star Wars. He's for superheroes what Star Wars is for fantasy sci-fi. So there it is. That's what I think of Superman. All right, so the movie basically takes more of a realistic approach. What if Superman was real? So that's a great thing, because any movie that based on a comic book hero that's kind of goofy or takes like it doesn't feel like it really happened, in my book already has minus points. Because when I see these films, I want to feel like, what if this really happened? What if Superman was real? After reading it in the comics, after watching cartoons for years, what if Batman was real? What if Spider-Man was real? What if, that's what I want to see in every single superhero movie. We've seen the cartoons, we've seen stuff that's not based on reality, but Man of Steel, coming off the the Christopher Nolan Batman Dark Knight trilogy, took that approach, which I give them props for that. Now, visually, the movie is stunning and stuff. There's a few times where it kind of, the VFX were like, there was just like too much of it. And this movie is not dark in color like the other Zack Snyder movies as they progressed, meaning Batman vs. Superman and stuff like that. But when it comes, let's go, I'm kind of going all over the place, because there's a lot of passion when it comes to this film, because it is the beginning of the DCU. We kind of like don't know in this stage, 2020, if the DCU is intact or what's going on. But the movie is based on, it's more realistic, but it starts off on Krypton. It gives us a different look of Krypton, more politics with General Zod and stuff. General Zod is the main villain here, and pretty basic to the original Superman story, where Krypton blows up. Last son of Krypton comes to Earth and becomes a hero, right? And is raised by Jonathan Kent. So that structure, as far as like Superman coming from Krypton and coming to Earth and stuff, is still there. And they touch upon Clark's struggles with being different, as not really looking like a human, but not a human. So that's cool too. There's a lot of debate on whether or not Jonathan Kent, who's his father, was portrayed correctly. There's a lot of debate whether or not, there's an issue with his death, which I disagree with, how Jonathan Kent died. And I'm going to go into spoilers right now, how he chose to die instead of a heart attack. It was a storm, and I feel like that's where one of the problems with the movie. Sure, maybe there were versions of Jonathan Kent where he died differently than a heart attack, but the entire thing is there's a lot of... the problem with Superman, what people keep saying, is that he's too powerful, right? But what about Superman that he can't do? He's as powerful as the weakest human on Earth. When his father died, Jonathan Kent, in Superman 1978, it was a heart attack. He had a speech where no matter how strong he was, he told his mom he couldn't stop him from dying. And in this movie, Man of Steel, he could have saved his father. He could have used his powers to save his father through the tornado. But his father chose not to stop him, tell him to stop. And because he didn't want his son to get exposed or whatever. But he has super speed and stuff, especially like later on in the film. You see that he actually saves people on an oil rig or something like that. So a month later, he saves these strangers, right? Shows his identity. And the month before, he let his father pass. So that was a little bit weird. There's an entire debate also where Clark Kent asks his father, after saving kids in a bus, should I have not saved them? And then his father says something like, maybe you shouldn't have. I think there's a lot of debate because people say that Jonathan Kent would have never told his son not to save people. That is true. But if you want to go realistic a little bit, maybe it's because this Jonathan Kent is not perfect. He doesn't know. He doesn't have the answers. So he's maybe even asking his son in a way, maybe you shouldn't have saved people. I don't know. That's a good way to do it. So another thing is, it feels like the movie took all the criticisms from Superman Returns to heart. And actually, the criticism of Superman Returns, it was like not enough action in the film. It was kind of like more of a drama. I would even call it a chick flick with Superman Returns. And I feel like this movie had too much action. It like overstayed its welcome in action. For example, in the beginning of the movie, when they have, Jor-El, and he's like on an adventure on Krypton, going underwater and stuff like that. It's cool visually, but the movie was bogged down in that stuff for a while at the beginning of the movie. And I gotta be honest with you, when I first saw that, I was like, this is gonna be a problem because it kind of derailed the storyline. Like everything was action, and it was fine. Until probably you get to the end where like there was a fight at Metropolis, which was a good fight. I know some people said the destruction was too much, but hey, you have two super freaks, and more. Like there's going to be casualties, right? And it was addressed in Batman vs Superman and stuff. But I feel like that scene went on and on and on and on and on and on. And it just overstayed its welcome. So it's like, that's one thing I felt that it was a consistent mistake within the DCEU. Zack Snyder was just putting too much stuff into the movie. I want to talk a little bit here. For example, the Snyder Cut. The Snyder Cut. We've been. It's been. He stopped production on that film, Justice League, years ago. And like 50 to 80% of the movie that we saw was his or something like that. But we've been seeing non-stop pictures released for the Snyder Cut via Zack Snyder himself. Stuff we haven't seen before. So it leads me to believe after years of this, how much stuff is actually in the movie. It's oversaturated. And I think Man of Steel suffered from saturation as far as that's concerned. Now, I'm not trying to say that the movie is bad. I'm just saying it just needed to be a little bit more controlled, like more edited, I guess, a little bit. I think it would have gotten a better rise out of the audience and stuff. I know the film did okay, but it's still Superman. It should have done much better. It shouldn't have been, at the very least, it shouldn't have been a debate among the fans if that was a good movie or not. And there is a debate among that, whether you like it or not. And again, let's rewind right here. Let's just talk about the good stuff a little bit. Hans Zimmer's music is amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I did not miss the John Williams score. And yes, I love the John Williams score. And it could have been used in this film fine. But I'm good with Hans Zimmer. Amazing score. There's a scene, there's a few scenes in there where Superman, where he asks Jor-El, where does he come from, right? And why am I different? And then he talks to him about how the sun on Krypton is older, I guess, and more worn out, and then the sun on Earth offers more like power, more nutrition, like it's fresher. So that's why he has all those powers. And then he takes flight, right? And that scene where he walks out of the ship and he takes flight for the first time and is like, doesn't know how to fly. I love that scene. That is so damn good. Jor-El, let's say, is a great, is portrayed perfectly here. You couldn't get a better actor to do it. As a matter of fact, the cast is pretty dope. The cast is pretty dope, and stuff. So let's talk about the villains a little bit. General Zod was great. Fedora was great. I like that aspect of it. So that's fine and stuff. But the negative again, the overstayed of action, and a couple of the plot points that were just like General Zod was trying to save the Kryptonian race, and that was his entire point, to save the Kryptonian race. And then they come to Earth where they have superpowers, and then they have a world changer, or I guess that's the name of it, where they want to make Earth like Krypton's environment. But see, the problem with that is Earth's environment make Kryptonians like gods. So if you leave it alone, the Kryptonians will be like gods, ensuring the survival of the race, which is General Zod's mission. Or he's genetically engineered for that, which is kind of wacky too. That Kryptonians are genetically engineered. It's just putting too much story on something that should be simple. But that's when you run into troubles like this. So General Zod comes to the Earth, and he's gonna make new Krypton, right? Because Kryptonian race to survive, Kryptonian supremacy. And then he finds out they have superpowers here. They can fly, stuff that they don't have on Krypton, and he wants to bring it back to the way it was on Krypton, so they're vulnerable. What? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. I hope I'm articulating that pretty well, but it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. But anyways, overall, this is an enjoyable film. It's a good film. It's a good start to the DCEU. Did it run into trouble? That's going to be for another video for another time. I'm going to start a review, more films, maybe Batman vs. Superman next. But be on the lookout here on Nuke the Fridge. You can follow me at NerdLecca on Twitter and Instagram. Or you can please subscribe to this channel, Nuke the Fridge. We're going to fill this place with reviews, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.